In recent years, the U.S. housing market has experienced unprecedented growth, with home prices reaching record highs in many cities. A combination of interest rate fluctuations, limited housing inventory, and high demand has fueled this surge, leaving experts and potential homebuyers wondering if a major correction is on the horizon. In fact, some cities have already witnessed price drops of up to 25%, hinting at the possibility that the market could be heading towards a collapse similar to the 2008 financial crisis. This looming crisis has become a critical topic of discussion in the financial world, as the consequences of a housing market collapse could have far-reaching implications for the broader economy. With mortgage rates fluctuating, home prices in some regions remaining stubbornly high, and the possibility of a nationwide crash growing increasingly plausible, it's crucial for investors, homebuyers, and policymakers alike to understand forces driving the U.S. housing market towards this potential implosion. The U.S. housing market has experienced a remarkable boom in recent years. With skyrocketing prices, record low interest rates, and limited housing inventory, many cities have seen double-digit price increases fueled by a surge in demand and an influx of investors snapping up properties. However, there are growing concerns that these factors have created a housing bubble that's on the verge of bursting. Several warning signs indicate that the housing market is headed for a major downturn. For starters, the National Case-Shiller Index has reported 6 straight months of decline, a trend we haven't seen since 1987. Additionally, cities like Seattle have experienced price drops of more than 15%, a figure reminiscent of the 2008 financial crisis. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve has begun raising interest rates, making it more expensive to borrow, which reduces demand for homes. One key factor contributing to the potential housing market implosion is the increased presence of investors. As institutional investors and wealthy individuals buy properties, they are driving up prices and reducing the availability of affordable homes for regular buyers. This influx of investment capital has made it difficult for first-time homebuyers and those with lower incomes to compete, leading to a growing affordability crisis. Now, the COVID-19 pandemic is somewhat behind us, but it has had a profound impact on the way we work, with many companies adopting remote work policies. This shift has led to an increased demand for larger homes and remote work-friendly spaces, adding even more pressure to the already competitive housing market. As remote work becomes more prevalent, demand for housing in suburban and rural areas may continue to rise, further straining the market. Add to this the fact that as housing prices continue to soar, the risk of a widespread affordability crisis is growing. Wages have not kept pace with the rapid increase in home prices, and the recent interest rate hikes only exacerbate the problem. The widening gap between income and housing costs could lead to a significant reduction in demand, resulting in a sharp decline in housing prices and potentially triggering a market implosion. So when you see millennials and Gen Z expressing their frustration on the internet, they aren't wrong. The housing prices are actually out of their reach, and as already mentioned, the increase in interest rates is making things worse. In a mere 6 months, the market has lost a whopping $2.3 trillion in value, leaving homeowners feeling the pinch. But what's behind this unprecedented downturn? And what does the future hold? Well, according to Redfin, this is the largest drop since the infamous subprime mortgage crisis of 2008. This time, the culprit is the higher interest rates, which have driven down demand and caused median home prices to plummet by 11.5% from their peak in May. And unfortunately, the pain doesn't stop there. With borrowing costs on the rise, potential homebuyers are being left on the sidelines, causing U.S. home purchase applications to hit a 28-year low. The hardest hit areas include cities like San Francisco, Oakland, and New York, where the pandemic caused technology layoffs and soaring prices. Redfin economist Shen Zhao says that despite the current downturn, most homeowners will still benefit from the pandemic housing boom, with the total value of homes remaining about $13 trillion higher than before the pandemic. However, the prices are expected to continue falling. Pantheon macroeconomist Kieran Clancy predicts decline in prices following the collapse in existing home sales, which have dropped nearly 40% from their pandemic peak. Pantheon ultimately projects that home prices will fall by around 20% from their peak by the end of this year, potentially causing the median price to tumble another 10% to about $346,500. On the other hand, Comerica Economics foresee more modest price drops, with average prices potentially decreasing by up to 9% on a national basis. The recent downturn in the U.S. housing market is a stark reminder of the market's vulnerability to external factors such as interest rates and economic policies. As homeowners, buyers, and sellers navigate this uncertain landscape, it's crucial to stay informed and prepared for the potential challenges ahead. Now that there are some clear signs indicating the possibility of an implosion in the housing market, let's go through the potential consequences of a housing collapse. Number 1. Widespread negative equity and foreclosure surge. If the housing market collapses, one of the most immediate and visible consequences will be a widespread increase in negative equity, where homeowners owe more on their mortgages than the current value of their properties. As home prices plummet, those who bought at the height of the market will be hit the hardest, leaving them trapped in properties that are no longer worth their initial investment. This could lead to a surge in foreclosures, as homeowners struggle to keep up with mortgage payments on homes that are underwater. The wave of foreclosures would result in even more distressed properties on the market, causing a vicious cycle that further depresses home values and exacerbates the housing crisis. Number 2. Broader economic downturn. A housing market collapse can have a far-reaching effect on the broader economy, as it can lead to a significant reduction in consumer spending and confidence. As home values drop, households may feel less wealthy and become more cautious with their spending, impacting various industries such as retail, automotive, and travel. Additionally, the construction sector, which is heavily reliant on a healthy housing market, could face massive job losses and reduced investments in new projects. The financial sector would also suffer, as banks and lending institutions deal with a growing number of delinquent loans and tighter credit conditions. This domino effect could potentially plunge the economy into a recession, further straining the job market and amplifying the financial distress experienced by households. Number 3. Long-term social and geographical consequences. The fallout from a housing market collapse can also result in long-term social and geographical consequences. As affordable housing becomes increasingly scarce, many people may be forced to move away from high-priced urban areas in search of more affordable options. This could lead to a significant shift in population distribution, with cities experiencing depopulation and rural areas seeing an influx of new residents. Such population shifts can strain local infrastructure and resources, affecting the quality of public services such as education, healthcare, and transportation. Additionally, the collapse may exacerbate existing wealth and income disparities, as those with lower incomes are disproportionately affected by the lack of affordable housing and may find it increasingly difficult to secure stable, well-paying jobs in a weakened economy. With such dire and far-reaching consequences, as the U.S. housing market shows signs of an impending implosion, it's crucial for potential homebuyers, investors, and policymakers to be vigilant and prepared. After all, nobody wants to see the frightening images of the 2008 housing market collapse. Well, it was the time when houses were selling like hotcakes, people were getting loans without a second thought, and the economy seemed unstoppable. But then, without warning, it all came crashing down. This is the story of the 2008 housing crisis, a financial disaster that shook the world and left millions struggling in its wake. The story of the 2008 housing crisis began with a boom. In the early 2000s, the U.S. housing market was experiencing rapid growth fueled by low interest rates, lax lending standards, and a sense of optimism that home prices would continue to rise indefinitely. As a result, people were buying and selling homes at a record pace, driving up prices and creating a bubble that seemed too good to be true. And it was. At the heart of the housing crisis was the subprime mortgage market. In an effort to capitalize on the booming housing market, lenders began offering mortgages to borrowers with less than stellar credit, known as subprime borrowers. Many of these loans came with adjustable interest rates that started low, but could skyrocket after a few years, making it difficult for borrowers to keep up with their payments. As more and more subprime loans were bundled and sold as mortgage-backed securities, the stage was set for disaster.